Okay, so this is again part of the series of inflation, interest rate, the economy, capitalist system, properties, and in this video, I'm going to talk about what I think was going to happen, and it's a guess, like everybody else. Don't be fooled. Nobody really knows what the interest rate is going to be in 18 months' time. But as an educated guess, I'm going to share my thought process. So right now, base rate, Bank of England base rate is 5.25, means lending rates around 7%. The idea is it had to go up that much because inflation was at 12% at one point in 2023. That means the goods and services that we were buying was increasing to 10, 12, 13%. Some things were doubling, like electricity, utility bills, food have been increasing massively. Why is that important? Is because when you and I get a pay rise, we don't get a double digit pay rise on average. Most people in the UK in 2023 would have got especially in the public sector, would have got a pay rise of around 3 to 4%. Now imagine if you get your wage to go up by 3 or 4%, but everything else going up by 12, 13, 14%, you are getting pay cuts, not pay rises. Even in the public sector last year, they said the average private sector last year in 23 received on average a between 8 to 10% pay rise. That's still better than it's still better than public sector, but it's still lower than what the inflation rate was. So why is that all important? It's because if prices of goods and services are rising at 10%, but the amount of money you earn each day, each month, each year is either staying flat or increasing to about 2-3%, you're losing your purchasing power. And that's what economists talk about, the idea that inflation erodes your purchasing power. Let me give you another example. If you left £100 in the bank in 1971 and you came back to it 50 years later now to see what the value of that £100 gets you, in physical numbers, there's still £100 there in the digital kind of currency version. But when you take out that money, the actual purchasing power is somewhere around £5. What you can actually buy with it, what you could have bought with £100 in 1971 is huge. What you can buy with £100 today is not a lot. Don't take my word for it. Even just on Sunday, just gone in March, I think it was 25th, even to Jeremy Hunt, our Chancellor at the moment, I say at the moment because we got so many of them in the last 12 years, he even said £100,000 worth of earnings in 2024 is not a lot of money. I mean, that is a bit of a kick in the teeth for multiple reasons, because the average person earns between 30 to 40,000, depending where you are in the country and what kind of jobs you are in. But to say that even £100,000 is not a lot of money is hurtful, but also it's very true, because £100,000 of earnings, a gross, you're looking at probably £7,000 gross, you're looking at about £4,000 a month, which is astronomical in a lot of people's eyes. But when you contrast it to food prices, electricity, the mortgage price that you're paying at the moment, the cost of fuel, and if you've gone on holiday and food, all of a sudden going out to eat is ridiculously expensive. And that's why if you are down in the south of England, £100,000 doesn't get you that far out. Probably up north, it gets you a little bit further because your money, your cost of housing is a lot less than what it is in certain parts of the southeast of England. So to summarize, the interest rate and inflation relationship is important for everybody to understand, because if you don't understand that, you have £100,000, you leave it in the bank, you think I'm rich because I've got £100,000 in the bank. The problem is, if inflation is or was as it was 10% in 2023, 2022, that means your £100,000. And that's hard for people to get their head around. A lot of people come back to me and say, what do you mean by that? Well, actually, it's not that the actual numbers go down from 100,000 to 90,000, but your purchasing power goes down to 90,000. Why? Because the goods and services that you would have bought 2 years ago has gone up by 10%. And that's why that relationship is important, because inflation inflates all the prices of goods and services. But if you're not earning above interest rate level of gains, whether it's your salary or the interest rate itself, then you're losing money and you're losing your purchasing power. And that's why it's important to teach young people to understand this concept. I'm continually talking about it to my kids, to my teenagers, to understand that there is a relationship that you've got to really understand. That it's either you're paying it or you're borrowing it, or you're lending it out. So Which way you want to choose to do it is down to you, and it's down to your circumstances. But the key here is delayed gratification. If you've got £100,000, my best advice to you is look for things to invest in rather than parking it in a bank, because lots of people go on about ISAs and stuff, and I'll make another quick video about ISAs. But the idea is, if you've got some cash, look for assets that you think are going to grow and invest in those assets. Do not park it in a bank, because inflation rate will take it away and will erode the value of your money.